Hi, this is Garrett Sutton, and you're listening to the Average Joe Finances Podcast.
If you're watching this on YouTube, make sure you smash the like and subscribe buttons. If you're listening to our podcast, go leave us a 5-star review. All of our links can be found in the video description or show notes below.
Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Average Joe Finances Podcast. I'm your host today, Tanya, the Money Life Coach. And today's guest is Steve Selengut. He's a professional investment manager for 40-something years now. He's been doing this a while. He knows his stuff, and he just wrote a book that he's promoting, Retirement Money Secrets. Welcome, Steve, to the podcast. We're so excited to have you join us.
Thank you, Tanya. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, I mean, you have been doing this for a while. Let's jump right in. And how did you get into this field? What's your background? And, who is Steve Selengut?
Well, how I got here, I guess somewhat interesting. When I was young, I had a family that was involved in real estate development and so on. And it was a relatively new community in northern New Jersey at a big lake. So it was a very popular summer vacation spot and things like that. So my dad had a large development going and constructing and everything in that area. And he had a lot of different streams of income in his business. He had the property sales, the house building, the house renting. He insured the people, both their home, automobile, whatever he could get them. He had a broker on staff that did that. He and his attorney had a lumber yard, so they made money on all the subcontractors that built the homes.
Oh, wow.
And he loaned money to the buyers.
Oh,
So
wow.
it was
Okay.
like a bank,
Yeah.
And he sort of pounded that into my brother and my head that income is what floats the boat, man. I mean, that's what you have to have. And you got to have different types of income, because something can go wrong with one area and you'll still have the others to replace it. And that just really resonated with me anyway. I don't know how. My brother's quite a bit different than I am. So long story short, when I was 25, I received an investment portfolio to take care of by myself.
Okay.
And it was all what you'd call blue chip stocks. Think of this is in 1970.
Wow.
And it's all companies. Many of the companies still exist today. I mean, IBM was there, GE, General Motors, a bunch of other like oil companies and things like that, a couple of healthcare stocks.
Yeah.
And the one thing unique about them was that every one of them was a dividend payer. Most of them were Dow stocks, or at least, and all of them were on the New York Stock Exchange. And I immediately had a cash flow from these things. And I started with a broker, and she was very experienced, and she taught me, things she thought I needed to know about stock market. And since interesting, so some of the same things I teach to my coaching clients today. One of them, that market volatility is nothing to be feared. It's just the way it is. It's a marketplace, and that's how it's going to be. Price is going to go up and down. The market's going up and down all the time. And we're going to be in an advantage. We're going to be in a position to take advantage of it, because we have income coming in to buy when it goes down. And we determined that it would be a pretty simple thing. If you look at charts of all of these companies over the years, you see there are many opportunities to buy them and then sell them and do it again. Mm-hmm. So we set reasonable profit-taking targets. We had a list of potential buys so that we could buy something and sell something else immediately to replace it, either in the same sector or whatever. And we started trading. And I should say, I started trading. She started collecting a lot of commissions because these
Wait
were
a
the
second.
days of commissions.
Oh,
So,
yeah.
so I was working in Manhattan at the time in the pension investment department of a large life insurance company. So I did learn a lot about things from them as well.
Yeah.
But by the time 1979 rolled around, I was making about 5 times as much investing as I was
Oh, wow.
commuting to New York.
Oh my
So
God. That's amazing.
it didn't make any sense to continue that. And I knew that, and I inquired and I found out there was a bunch of tests I had to take, a few other things before I could get an RIA. And so I did that and I left the job and I started investing money for two of my friends who are still with the firm that I sold today.
Oh, wow. Okay.
They're both even older than I am, if you can believe it.
No.
So that's the story. That's how I got here. Sold that. I started with, probably less than 6 figures under management. And I sold the business in May of 23.
Okay.
And I had over 110 million in capital under management all over the country,
Amazing.
some overseas. And they made me an offer I couldn't refuse. So I
Good for
left.
you.
I left that and I started this coaching business and I wrote the book. And I'm as busy now as I was then.
You're like, wait a second. But yeah, you're taking everything that you've learned and now you're helping other people figure out, obviously retirement now has changed a lot over the decades of like people not having as many, obviously not everyone had pension, but like a lot of things, with the cost of living and all these changes that you're seeing. What are some of those things you talk about in the book about people planning retirement and trying to have hope nowadays? Because it can feel like a struggle, right?
Yeah. Well, I guess the main dilemma is that we're a very market value oriented investment community. I mean, when you talk with, financial professionals, myself included, there is a focus. They all get paid based on AUM. We all got paid based on AUM.
Yeah.
So and perhaps I was a little different because I could afford to be focused more on income for my clients because I had income myself,
Okay. Yeah.
I didn't have, I wasn't that dependent, so to speak, as some. And I always felt that income stream was very important always to me. So that's how I developed my clientele, by telling them I would have them enough income to take care of all their expenses. So in today's environment, we have the 4% rule is pretty much the rule of thumb for most advisors. And it's based on the assumption that the market value is always going to be there. It's going to grow. And obviously it has been growing steadily and probably will continue to. But it's not always going up. And there are times when you have this negative impact of a down market and dependent on when that is in your retirement plan, it could be devastating if the market falls 40% a year before you retire.
Yeah.
I mean, I remember friends when I was turning, let's say around 65, that couldn't retire because that's about the same time we had the Great Recession.
Right. Well, what do you recommend? So you provide hope nowadays when people like have that fear and are afraid of like, oh, well, what's the point of not what's the point of investing, but like, all the unknowns that might come.
Right. Well, what I do is with the focus on income, and is that they don't have to worry about that because the cash flow continues. I use closed-end funds. I don't know if you're familiar with them, but they're trust vehicles. They're the first form of fund ever developed in Europe, I believe, in the early 1800s, before mutual funds were developed. And as trust vehicles, they have to pay out 95% of the income that they receive. Mutual funds, ETFs don't have to do that. So they don't generate the kind of income that closed-end funds do. If companies did that, we'd be a lot better off, wouldn't we? But
Yeah.
closed-end funds have to. So picture a portfolio full of, let's even use municipal bonds. Several hundred municipal bonds, all you're supposed to have, all the different locations, if there's, different states all over the place. It doesn't matter which way interest rates go, although the prices go down, they're still paying out the same money, right? They don't stop paying you that money. Well, same thing. Let's picture them in a fund that has all these different type of fixed income securities. Regardless of where interest rates go or the market, the fund manager is collecting the same amount of income. He's paying the same distributions to the customer, regardless of how bad things are in the environment. Rarely, if ever, do you see a major default in the municipal bond market. Not since the 80s. You didn't witness, you didn't experience personally the whoops fiasco of the 80s. That was Washington Public Power Company. They actually defaulted on a huge triple A plus bond rated
Yeah. Wow.
bond back then. It was amazing. It had never been one of that size before. But it's the same as true of corporate bonds and so on. There's rarely a default in high quality type paper. So that's one of the security things about income investing, is that those distributions, and in the case of the closed-end funds, they're paying mostly monthly. Almost all of the income-focused ones pay monthly. A lot of the equity closed-end funds will pay quarterly.
Mm-hmm.
So, but most of them pay monthly also. So the same is true of the stocks. CEFs will invest in a portfolio of stocks, and any trading income they have, any income from selling covered calls, all of that goes back to the owners of the shares. And the shares are just like stock shares. They have nothing to do, the price has nothing to do with the net asset value, just like the price of a stock has nothing to do with its book value. So it's a whole different environment, and it gets you to the point, if you have to take care of quality, you got to diversify properly, you know what I mean? It gets you to the point where you don't have to worry when there's a market crash, because the income keeps rolling in, and you don't have to say, oh my God, I can't retire now because my market value isn't big enough to let me live for 20 more years or 25 more years.
Yeah, because that's the stress. And do you explain this, get into your book and how you decided to write this and what that was like? Is that all this that you explain in your book that people can get now, or work with you as a coach to help them figure this out?
It leads to the coach. You get to the end of the book, you have to make a decision. Do I do this myself, or do I need somebody to do it for me? If you're an attorney with a practice where you're in court all day, every day, and you can't manage your money, you need somebody like me. To put you with someone who can do it this way to generate you the income you want. That's the type of clients I had in the old days, are people who didn't have the time to do it for themselves.
Yeah.
So that's what the book's all about. It doesn't just talk about using closed-end funds and making all the money. It also talks about how do you monitor to make sure you're getting the right quality, how to diversify in every possible way you can go, and how important it is to make sure you're getting income from everything you invest in. And then there's the one thing that very few other people, and something that I was told when I was a professional, you don't tell people to sell the stocks that are up.
Yeah.
Because they can come back and sue you if it continues to go up.
Totally.
So
my God.
And I was always a seller. I was always a trader of these things. So I had a separate management agreement with these people, and it told them specifically that you'll never see anything with more than a 10% profit, because that's my target.
Yeah.
So I'm taking that profit, Charlie. It doesn't matter if you call me up and say don't. I'll have to send you to somebody else, because the only way I can grow your income is if I grow your capital that's producing income.
Yes.
And I have to hold on to something because it's pretty. It's not doing any work. It's just
Yeah,
looking good, you know?
for
So
sure. That's a good analogy for life.
I'm a prophet. You know what the best analogy I found is? A lot of people really get a hold of this, is you got to manage your portfolio like you were running a department store.
Mm-hmm.
So you own all these goods that are on your shelves, and you got a markup on every one of them, right?
Yep.
If somebody comes in to pay you what your markup is, you don't say, "Nah, I'm holding it because it's going to go up more tomorrow. Then I'll find somebody to buy it." No, you sell it to them, and you get some more inventory, and you put it on your shelf.
That is a good
And
point.
and
Yeah,
that's what I do. And that's what
that's a
I
good
do.
way to think about it. Let's jump into the final round because I know we have a limited time here and I want to get your background on or your insights on this. What is the biggest mistake that you've made when it's come to your finances or business life?
My business life, I probably stayed too long at that employer.
Hmm.
I probably could have cut out a little bit earlier. In the financial part, I discovered there are two, going back a long time ago, petroleum and resources was a stock that I used. And it was at the time I discovered it way back when there was a guy named Pickens, T. Boone Pickens, and a bunch of other people. And there's a whole bunch of combinations and purchases and sales in the oil sector and all kinds of mergers, like it went from hundreds of different separate oil companies to pretty much what we have now. Not that many. And so, oil stocks were doing so well, and I was trading them, of course. But I found this thing called petroleum and resources, and it was in that sector, and paid a minimal dividend 3/4 of the year. But the fourth quarter of the year, in December, it would go like from 10 cents to $4.50 would be the December distribution. So I would buy it in September or October and just wait. It would declare the distribution. The price would go up like gangbusters. I'd make like 75% or 80% of what the dividend was going to be, and I'd sell it because I didn't want to hold it for the whole year while it was only paying 10 cents a quarter.
Yeah.
I didn't even realize it was a closed-end fund. I didn't know.
Yeah.
I had no clue. Then when I found out about closed-end funds, it was with a client that I was looking at their portfolio, and they had a couple things I didn't recognize. I said, "What are these things?" And the guy told me, "Well, these things pay huge dividends." And I said, "Are they in the stock market or the bond market?" He said, "No, they're in the bond market." I said, "Really? Let me look inside." So I looked inside, and I found this thing had full of corporate bonds and stuff like that, and it was paying a monthly dividend, and it was higher than I could get. It traded like a stock, so I didn't have to call the broker. I used to. Well, you didn't have to.
I remember.
Never
Yeah, I
used to
remember.
call
Yeah,
brokers,
my
but
grandparents.
you had to get an individual quote on a bond. You
Yeah.
might still have to if you're buying individual bonds for a
Yeah.
customer. You have to get a quote. There's a markup from what the price is,
Mm-hmm.
and you have to pay the accrued interest to the last owner and all that stuff. Now, with these things, you've got a portfolio of hundreds of bonds, and you push a button and sell it. None of that stuff, none of that baloney that goes.
Yeah, it's so different now.
That's when I discovered them, and then I said, okay, all my clients, they have these bond unit trusts where you get principal and interest until the thing drained down.
Mhm.
They had Ginnie Mae's, the government national mortgage things, all these complicated products. So I began the process, and I finished the process right around the time of the dot-com bubble, right at the turn of the century. Right around then, I had pretty much transferred all the income-focused securities I had into income closed-end funds. In the process, more than doubling the amount of income that people were getting from them, and being able to trade them as well. So what a a light bulb moment that was. That's the biggest.
Amazing.
If I had only learned about this sooner on the equity side. On the income side, I learned about it pretty fast, but the equity side, I would have had like maybe another zero on my portfolio when I sold it.
Nice. That's so cool. What's something you learned that you wish you would have known? I mean, I guess, yeah, you just kind of answered that question, actually. I'll get into the next one. Do you have any tips or tricks that you recommend to someone that is just getting started today investing or trying to figure out what to do, where to start?
Yeah, and I think that comes mainly from my experience with people who started out with their IRAs. And when I started IRAs, you only could put away 1,500 a year. Now I think it's what, 8,000 or something like that.
Yeah,
Well,
there's different 6,500 or 7,000. Yeah, keeps going up a little
yeah.
bit more.
So, but when you do that, a lot of people will call a professional or talk to an advisor. And I used to hear things like, "What's hot? Give me an idea what I could buy to make this really go up quick," stuff like that. So instead of thinking, hey, this is the foundation of what I'm going to need to live on or take my family on cruises when I'm Steve's age, if I put this away and let it start compounding income at the very beginning and not take risks on what's going to happen in the market. I mean, right now, the market's at its highest level in the history of mankind. And this is a person's first money, and they're going to go throw it at a stock market at its very peak when
Yeah.
you can put it in a bunch of these closed-end funds to get 10% a year.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So, I think that's the most important thing you can do when you're young and getting started, is to emphasize the income production and the quality of what you're getting into and diversification. And since you have a limited amount of money, by buying income products that are already diversified, you solve all three problems at once. They're safer, they're diversified, and they produce a lot of income. And
love it.
that's the way to, and then when you get in your 40s, you can start taking some risk because now you got a 6-figure portfolio. So you can worry about
that's
what.
Really.
Can you imagine what it's going to be like 40 years from now? What kind of robotics and
I don't know.
AI
that's
and
crazy
stuff
to
you're
think
going to be
about.
choosing from? Wow,
Yeah.
what a difference it's going to be.
Just how it's changed.
Is there going to be an oil industry 40, 50 years from now?
I don't know. I mean, I'm
I
sure
guess
there'll be some of it.
There'll always be plastics, right? So
Yeah, for sure. That's true. What are some of your favorite, besides your own, obviously your own book, what are some of your favorite business investing or real estate related books or podcasts that you listen to?
I guess, as a professional myself and having this, I had a kind of a unique strategy. There aren't too many people that traded like I did and had the same requirements. So I really avoided, I had something that worked. I mean, this thing got me out of the business world and let me start my own business when I was 34 years old. I was, I had, I've never, don't remember ever having a less than 7-figure portfolio since I grew up. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I wasn't going to mess with that. So I actually absolutely avoided listening to finance shows, reading finance books, and particularly not predictions. I didn't go anywhere near predictions.
Interesting. Wow.
So I guess I just had, the expression, if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Yeah.
And I had a pretty successful thing going, and I wasn't going to make any adjustments to it.
I love that. No, that's really good advice too, because some people get so consumed or they don't actually take action. They're just reading and listening and not implementing, or they don't realize what they're already doing is working or something. So yeah, I've never heard anyone say that, but it makes so much sense, Steve. I love that.
I guess it sounds a little egocentric, but practically speaking, I mean, if you have a successful thing going on, you really don't want to do too much adjustment to it.
Yeah, I've heard some coaches say that where they don't, not even on the financial side, just in growing their business, like getting consumed with like following this trend or this thing and then kind of going some other direction. So it's very distracting. Where can people find more information about you, your book, your website, social media? Let us know where you're.
The book's available every place you can get books, particularly at Amazon.
Retirement Money Secrets, it's called. Retirement Money.
Retirement Money Secrets. Yep. And it's an income focused investing book. The
Great.
tagline on it, I don't know if you noticed the tagline on it. It says, market value fuels the ego and
Mm.
income fuels the yacht.
Oh, no, I love that.
That's the idea.
Amen.
Yeah. And I have a website that's called theincomecoach.net.
Okay. Incomecoach.net.
And I now have a community.
Yep. Community
Just
on
started
school.
at school, which is called RMS Income Investing Community. The RMS being Retirement Money Secrets.
Got it. Okay.
Income
RMS Investing Community on school. And yeah, just look up Steve Selengut, Retirement Money Secrets. And he has a ton of knowledge and expertise there. So thank you so much, Steve, for joining us today. It's been great chatting with
You're
you
welcome.
and just hearing your
talking to you too.
strategy. And wow, just super cool story and how you figured out this whole finance thing and really took that and are helping so many people. So thanks for joining us. And thanks to our listeners on the Average Joe Finances podcast. Always make sure you go and leave a 5-star review. Let us know what you liked about today's episode and share this with somebody who needs it, because we know a lot of people out there do and want to understand investing more. So thank you from Lake Tahoe, and we'll see you guys soon. Bye, guys.
Thank you for making it to the end of this episode. Greatly appreciate you being here with me today on the Average Joe Finances podcast. If you haven't done so yet, make this the episode that you go leave us a 5-star rating or subscribe to our YouTube channel. The Average Joe Finances podcast is for informational and entertainment purposes only. Have an outstanding day.